So I am joined today on the Blues Hour with Miss Freddye, whose music is familiar to us here on Space Sound Radio. I'm a little bit in awe. I'm really thrilled and delighted in a very busy schedule that Miss Freddye has taken some time to spend with us here in our little corner of Scotland. A multi-award winning artist, recognised not just for her music work, but also for her charity work. Miss Freddye, a very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, I know you're in the middle of such a busy schedule, but you've started doing shows again now, haven't you, since the pandemic our restrictions are lifting a little?
Yes, I have. Hallelujah. Thank God. I actually started doing live shows. Let's see, this was June, back in April, May, with both of my bands. So I'm booked every weekend now.
That doesn't surprise me at all. We're going to play your first track. That we're going to have play three of your tracks just now. We're going to play the first one, which is Miss Freddie's Going to Fix You. This is from the album Lady of the Blues, which was from 2017, double Blues Foundation Award nominated. And we mentioned before that John Nemeth was the harmonica player on this. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Great job.
And also a name that is familiar to us here on the Blues Hour. So this is Miss Freddie's Going to Fix You from Lady of the Blues. And that was Miss Freddie's Going to Fix You from Lady of the Blues. We're joined all the way from Pennsylvania by Miss Freddye today. Just a couple of questions to help the listeners understand who you are and where you come from. So your earliest singing experience was church, is that right?
Oh, that's exactly right. That was my earliest experience as far as organized music. But as a kid, I was singing around the neighborhood with a couple of friends. And I remember one Christmas, my mother brought me a pink microphone. I loved it. I loved pink. And but at 15, church that I had attended, I did my first solo. And I have to say, it was bad. It was horrible. I was so embarrassed. I said, and that's where my stage fright comes from. It came from that. And then over the years, I started singing in other churches, whatever area, I was living in, and I never sang a solo, didn't want to. And then I joined my first band in 96, and that was a fluke, as we call it.
And am I right in thinking that your stage fright was such that when you started singing, you faced away from the audience?
Yes. So for a year, the band would face the audience, and I would sit in a chair behind the bass player, who was a big guy, and I would face, backwards. I'd face a wall or whatever. I did that for a whole year until my mentor and band leader, Big Al, he said, people are going to want to, hear you. I said, well, they can hear me. He said, no, not only do they want to hear you, they want to see you. And he said, you have to figure out a way to come out of that. And it took me many, many years to come out of the stage fright. I still get stage fright, but I figured out a way how to handle that.
And at some point then, do you just have a moment where you realize, I'm actually good at this? These people are really enjoying this. And wow, I'm actually... I mean, you seem a humble person, so you maybe wouldn't word it like this, but I'm actually super awesome at this singing.
No, I never think that, because, my motto is what I do is not mine to keep, and it's a gift from God. I've always thought that. And I really, really tune into that. And what I say is, I've really touched somebody's life. Like somebody finally, people are listening to what I'm singing and they get why I'm singing it. I may sing a love song. I may sing some sassy bluesy song, or I may reach deep down into my spirit, my soul, if you will, and sing a gospel song. So I say, thank goodness they hear me. They're listening. They're paying attention. And I'm going to have followers. That's what I say.
That is a very good way of looking at it. But I find it difficult to believe that anything you have ever sung was not superb. But I will have to just take your word on that one. Now, as well as a blues singer, you are also by day during the week a nurse, and for 34 years, is that right?
Yes, June 1st was 34 years. Yes, I'm a registered nurse. My specialty now is surgical oncology, where I work for a surgeon, and we deal with pancreatic, rectal, and colon cancers. Being a cancer survivor myself twice, breast cancer, um, I just believe it's important. It was my calling to go towards that type of nursing. I love surgical nursing, and then to work with cancer patients. Um, a lot of people can't do that because it is mentally and physically taxing, and it can take a toll on you. But what I've learned is, you know, people need help. 90% of this present job that I have is on the phone talking to patients and trying to get through to them if they're having an issue after surgery or even before surgery. So I have to, as a nurse, have our patients trust me, because I'm going to be the go-to person before they see my surgeon, before my physician assistant even talks to them. So that's what I do, and I love what I do. As sad as it is, people are diagnosed and fighting cancer. I love it. I wouldn't change jobs, not at this point.
I am in awe of it, and I'm also in awe of people who the courage and the bravery they show as they themselves are going through it. And I've not experienced it, but I speak to and hopefully offer some help to a lot of people who are. And it's a special thing to see, and a privilege to walk away from at the end and know that you have contributed something. And I wonder if there's between the nursing and the blues, if there's a mutual speaking to one another there, because here's a very difficult circumstance, but I'm going to keep smiling through it, and I'm going to find something bright to hold on to. And sometimes it's quite hard to find that, but am I making that up, or is there a...
No, actually, that's great that you mentioned that, because I know when I used to take care of patients in the hospital, we call it here bedside nursing, I would sing up and down the hallway. And a few of my coworkers, they, after a while, they learned that was, something was going on with me. I had my patients on my mind. I had to figure out how I'm going to take care of them. If somebody's having chest pain, if somebody just got a new diagnosis of cancer, something's going on. So they've intertwined the music that I do. And I've even gone around and before the pandemic, and I was singing at our children's hospital with one of my band and some of the nursing homes in my area, other area hospitals. So the music intertwines. It makes people feel good. It's just not me. It's not about me getting out there making money. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to make money. I've always told both of my bands the money will come eventually. But it's about reaching out to people, because I've met a lot of people who don't like blues. Believe me, they do not like blues, or they did not. And then when they heard what I did, I've had a couple of people. Matter of fact, there was a friend of mine out of the state of West Virginia here in the United States, and a guy that he was friends with who had passed away a couple of years ago, probably about 2-3 years ago. This gentleman told me, he said, my friend, he didn't like blues. He said that festival that you came to, he heard you sing and he couldn't get enough of hearing blues. And I said, that is absolutely wonderful, because I have met people who are just not into blues. And then, when they hear me, I said, remember, everybody does blues differently. There are no two singers, no two guitarists alike. There are not. It's all how you interpret it, and it's all about what you want to hear at the end of the day and how you feel inside. And then what's up here.
I loved one of the quotes that I read on one of the articles. Actually, it was the one that's linked from your website, where it was talking in the context of cancer, and it said, "Surround yourself with people who love you and want to take the journey with you." And I thought, for a lot of people, I mean, nurses do that probably as well as anybody in society, but blues also can do that, doesn't it? Like, blues can touch and reach people in ways that we don't imagine.
Uh, Absolutely. I have nieces and nephews. When I first started out, they were like me. When I was around their age, my mother listened to blues, my dad listened to country, and I didn't like either one of them. I was into the latest, whatever was out when I was a teenager and in my 20s. But as time went on, it's also about capturing their attention. Maybe some people think it's, cool to stand there and just sing. I have learned I used to do that too. And I've learned over the years, I have to engage people. And I may tell a story. I may do, hand waving in the air to get the audience to engage with me. And I use it like, okay, we all have just exercised, putting the hands in the air and moving. I say, remember, I'm a nurse. So when I combine the blues, and my nieces and nephews, they love it. They couldn't believe. They're like, Aunt Freddie, we didn't know, number one, you sang like that. And number two, wow, you make it interesting. I said, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. I said, because you're going to keep coming back for more. And a couple of them said, well, we come to support you, but, and I said, that's okay. I said, long as I got your attention the first time, I said, because you may have friends who are like, hey, do you know that lady? It's like, oh, that's my aunt. She sings blues. Yeah, she does that. She does gospel. Yeah, that's her. And I said, that's what it's all about. Word of mouth, listening and seeing and interpreting.
Just before we play your second track, I hadn't advertised that we were doing this, but a couple of people have tuned in. We got Tom R, who waving hi from Chicago. Love the blues. We have our own flavor of blues here. And Roberto Matteo, actually, I know Roberto. I hadn't told him we were doing this, but he's tuned in. Inspirational lady. He's an Italian friend of mine who lives in Glasgow in Scotland. A good man.
Hi. Thank you for tuning in. That's very cool.
So we'll play the second track of the three. This is Wade in the Water. We'll play it, and then I'll ask you a little bit about it, because I'm really looking forward to talking to you about this song. So this is Wade in the Water. That was Wade in the Water by Miss Freddye, who joins us still from Pennsylvania. And now Wade in the Water is a song with a very special, sacred history, isn't it? What does it mean? How does it speak to you? How does it connect with you?
It connects to me now that I understand the song, as far as the days of slavery here in America. And it is a song of communication. And this song also involves a biblical notation in it. But at the end of the song, the way that, I sing it, it's like, we're going to get into the water of Jordan, or any water, any river or water, and it's going to lead us to something or somewhere that's positive, that has gotten us out of, the troubles that we're in, because there's a lot of trouble. And if you want trouble, remember, he's going to trouble the waters for you. And so that's how I interpret it.
And I was saying to you just before we came on live that one of my special experiences of that song was when the Blind Boys of Alabama came to Perth in Scotland. And I mean, the Blind Boys, they were just awesome. But it was a very active concert. People are clapping and cheering. And then when they sang that, at the end of it, there was a sense that, okay, something special has just happened. And I hadn't experienced that until I heard you recording the song that we have just played. And I think the whole genre of these spirituals for me speaks to, on the worst days of my life, I always have I always have enough to eat. I always have an opportunity of being able to. My worldly circumstances have never been catastrophically damaged, but the people who wrote and first gave voice to that song, they had fellowship, they had family and some community, but their worldly circumstances were never going to improve. And so this for them to be real, their hope, to give voice on it's real, has to be in heaven, doesn't it? In God. And that's why I think there is much from the heart as any songs that we encounter.
Yes. And I agree with it. I couldn't have said it any better than what you just said. I have sang that song so many different ways, but the way that I recorded it last year in the studio, and I tell engineers, producers, do not tweak my voice, because how I sing it in a studio is how you're going to hear me sing it live in front of audience. And I think that's important because, again, it's interpretation and it's a feeling. And that particular song, I'm telling you, it's very powerful because I do it with both of my bands. Actually, I have 3 acts that I'm in, and I do it with all 3 of them. And we do it differently. Each band does it differently, which is great.
Yeah.
And I did it recently at a venue, Spill's Tavern in New Alexandria, Pennsylvania. The owner loves gospel, so I did 3 gospel songs. And I didn't tell him what I was doing. I didn't tell him my set list or anything. I wanted to be a surprise. And I said, these next songs that I'm going to do, one is gospel, one's my favorite single that came out. And everybody's like, there were a few people there that knew. I love the way my electric blues band does it. It is very haunting when we start out with it. When we first did it at a festival here in Pennsylvania a few weeks ago, I had tears in my eyes. And at the end of the show, there's a photographer and he captured my picture. And I'm like this at the end of the song. And there were tears in my eyes because the way the song was delivered. And there was all kind of meanings behind it. I don't know what my bandmates were thinking, but, I was thinking, wow, this is insanely incredible. I cannot believe this, that we're doing this. And it's it just sends chills through me. And I want people to feel that. You can interpret a song any way you want, but at the end of the day, it's, there's a biblical thing going on, there's a blues thing going on, there's a poem going on, there's a call and response going on. And whoever wrote the song way before 1901, before it was published, knew what they were doing or saying or trying to present.
Yeah. And I think that emotion comes through. It's like you're carrying a torch, a flaming torch that was lit by the suffering of those people. And when hearing it, it's almost as if you're through the music, you can reach into the past and sort of shake hands with somebody who has given something beautiful to the world. And one of the things that I love about it is, people do it in their own style, but the song doesn't need reworked, does it? It's just an honest, and the way you do it, and the way with each act that you have, it's just a sort of, in the best use of the word, basic, isn't it? It's just as close to the original, but with an electric band or with an acoustic band, or you mentioned that you'd sung it once completely a cappella. Special stuff. But talking about that photograph, that leads us into the next song, which is Something to Believe In, because that's the photograph on the front of that, I think, is a photograph that conveys optimism. with the, the little bit of the light shining behind you, and you've got such joy beaming from your face. In fact, one of the reviews that I read of your music, some of the reviews of your music talk about you personally, and somebody said she's just always smiling. Her face is just full of joy. And whoever took that photograph got that, I think, superbly well. So something to believe in. What does that mean for you, and what prompted you to sing that one?
Well, first of all, I'll start with what prompted me to sing it. It was thanks to Brian Cole out of Pennsylvania, and he works with a lot of Nashville artists. He approached me, my producer, and for that song, and he says, "I have a song for you." Now, this was back last year, like around about September, October. I listened. I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't hear anything. I don't hear. And he's like, no, you got to keep listening to it. Just listen to it. He's just relax, breathe, and listen. Okay, so I did it. And I said, wait, he's got something here. And as time went on, I said, but the song has to be me. It can't be who originally sang it, Linda Eder. It can't. It has to be Miss Freddye singing it, who I am, because Brian has heard me sing. And he said, okay. And so with the instrumentation and the background choir, and I said, this is it. This is a song, even though I think when it was first written by Frank Wildhorn, I believe it was written as a love song. And I said, it can be a love song, but it's a love song about hope, about faith, something to believe in. For me, it's like, okay, God is there. Jesus is there. I was like a wayward ship drifting out to nowhere. And listening to that. And then at the end, God bless Brian, he put Dr. Martin Luther King's part of his speech. And I just went, when he sent me the final cut, before he sent it to my publicist, Michael Stover, I started crying, like literally crying. Getting ready to cry now. I said, I cannot believe this. And my cousin, who has this deep voice, Leonard, God bless him. He, I approached him, a few weeks before I went back in the studio to do the final thing. And I said, I want you to sing on it. I want you to, whatever you do. And I said, I'll introduce you to my producer, Brian, and everything. And just listening to it, I filtered out everything, like everything individually. That's my job as a band leader anyway. I couldn't believe it. I said, this is because Brian said in the beginning, people, we need hope right now. We need something. And this is the song that's going to do it. And you're the person that's going to do that for people. And as I mentioned a few moments ago, I just burst out in tears. And I went into prayer and I said, thank you, Lord. I don't know what else to say with this. And I can sing it a cappella now. I used to be uncomfortable singing it, but and I did it on a couple interview shows. And one lady, she just broke down and started crying. And I'm like, oh, hope it wasn't that bad. And she's like, I can't believe it. She said, that's a beautiful song. And she said, you seem like you put your all in it. I said, my motto is what I do is not mine to keep. It is something from God that I was given, and I've had no experience with singing, no lessons, no nothing. And it's for me to give. And if it's to give hope, if it's to give a feeling of comfort, if you don't feel like if you feel things are hopeless, that's where the song is coming from for me. I don't mean to go on and on. It's just, sorry. It's just my interpretation and why. And I'm so grateful that I did it.
I think we're all so grateful that you did it. I think if there's if there's a kind of pattern, I was trying to work out how I would articulate this. It's if you have an emotion in your head and in your heart, and one of the purposes of a song like Something to Believe In is that you don't just communicate meaning, but you communicate that emotion. You take it out of your soul and you manage to implant it into somebody else's. And you can't manufacture that. You know, it's something that has to come from the heart. I don't think you can learn it. And just the marriage, sometime the singer, the song, all of the ingredients, the musicians produces something which is so much more than the sum of its parts. And yeah, and so we will play that now. This is Miss Freddye singing Something to Believe In. That's Something to Believe In by Miss Freddye, who has been joining us from Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for coming on to the Blues Hour with us, Miss Freddye. Just before we finish, is there a place that people can go to? Do you have a website, or are you on Facebook or Twitter, where people who want to can find out more information, and if they are in the vicinity where you happen to be performing, can find out details of how to come and see you?
Absolutely. You can go on my website, check out my bio, check out my shows and other things at MissFreddye.com. That's MissFreddye.com. Go to my Facebook page, Miss Freddye, like my page. You can find me on Twitter, Miss Freddye17. You can find me on Instagram, Freddie Stover. And go to Pafoma, PEFOMA, and just like my page on Pafoma.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that the WhiskyRev there's a Facebook page for the show. We'll make sure that those details are posted on that page. And if anybody misses it for any reason, they can get in touch with the show and I will point them in the right direction. Thank you so much for coming on. And I wish you every success, not just with the songs that you have released, but with the ones that I know you have in the pipeline. And we look forward to playing them as well, and wish you every blessing and every success for the future.
Thank you so much. And thank you for supporting the artists that have come on your show and continue to come on your show. And thank you to everyone out there. You know, if it wasn't for you all, you know, musicians like me, if I had a garage, I would be in the garage just singing and just doing, you know, whatever. So I really thank everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it. And take care.
That's my pleasure. Okay, so we'll cut the radio with you. And thank you so much for that. I'll have to edit that out because I hope it hasn't gone on too much longer than you had planned. But if we're able to just
it's fine. No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine.
But we still got a couple of people watching, which is a great blessing, because I hadn't plugged it. So you're obviously a drawer of crowds.
But that's great. That's wonderful. I just I love doing this. You know, because, you know, maybe 5-10 years ago, I'd have been like, oh no, because of my stage fright. But you know, I keep in the back of my head, I keep in my heart too, what I do is not mine to keep. It's just not. It's not fair. It's not right to be selfish about a gift that God has given me. And, you know, I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna, you know, just kind of hold on to it. And, no, it's just not right.
I saw that in one of the photographs, and I thought it's as good a life motto as I can, as something to keep in the forefront of your mind at all times. You know, it's like the verse, what do I have that I did not receive? But yeah, what I do is not mine to keep is a great life philosophy. Where did you write that, or did you find it somewhere? Was it?
Oh no, I just came up with it. And it came out of a conversation I was having with someone several years ago. And number one, they couldn't believe that I had stage fright. I said, absolutely, I still do. It's not as bad as it was, you know, 10, 15, 25 years ago when I started singing professionally in bands. But I said, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's just not fair. It's not fair. Why should I keep something that, you know, other musicians are, you know, out there, people are teachers, there are nurses. I said, my nursing job, I just didn't go to school and just not become, do the nurse, take care of people. That's not right. And so that's where it came out of it. And I, just all of a sudden, I just said, what I do is not mine to keep. And that's just been my motto, my saying. And a few people that know me, fans, they're like, there she is. You're not going to keep anything from us today, are you? And I laughed. And I said, no, because what I do is not mine to keep. So it's just a blessing.
Yeah. I think once you give it away, it grows, doesn't it, more than if we try and hold on to what we have made or what we have created. But one of the phrases that I came across when I was reading about articles, somebody who'd said, I don't want to embarrass you, Miss Freddye is one of the most loving people you will ever meet. She is just give. And there's not much that you would hope people would say about you that is more than that. And that's even more precious than Miss Freddye makes great music, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And, that's why I have to say, before the pandemic, I would tell I do my own booking. And I would tell club owners, promoters, festival, have you. I am booked solid by March for the rest of the year. And then I've already started booking for the following year. So you need to get a hold of me. And so right now, I'm booked every weekend, except for one weekend out of this month. Yay! I'm going to a friend's wedding reception. But July, you should see it. I didn't even post shows that I'm doing in July. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more shows I have to post on my calendar. So that means I'm playing 2 or 3 times every week in July. I'm playing a couple times in August. I'm playing every weekend, except for there's one weekend I'm not playing. Oh no, I just booked something. So there is one weekend I'm playing in September, and I'm playing up until the first week in October. And then after that, I said, I want to concentrate on getting ready for the holidays, working on my next album, which is going to be all gospel, all original, except for Wade in the Water. That is the only one, and it's public domain. So, and you ever did something that was so exciting that you just couldn't help yourself? You had to, shout hallelujah, scream, amen, yay, and that's how I feel with all of this. And I'm going to have to tell you, I feel very guilty because people who want to book me, they'll start out, and I said, okay, that's clearly, that's to hook me in. They will start off saying, Miss Freddye, I know you're busy, but are you able to play on this date? And I'm like, oh, come on. So in the past, I have maneuvered my schedule just so that I could play for the venue or whoever. Well, I didn't do that this year. I turned down about 3 or 4 shows. I said, I'm booked. I can't. There's nothing I can do. And I work 5 days a week. And even during the week, I'm doing shows. And so my acoustic guitar player says, you normally don't gig on during the week. I said, well, our shows are like an hour, 2 hours. So I can do that. So I can be home, get ready for work the next day and get some sleep. So
there's wisdom in recognizing that, isn't there?
Yeah. But you know what? And I'm not I'm not tired like I used to be. Like I used to be very tired and drained. I'm not anymore. I'm just not. I'm full of life, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
One or two things I was going to just sort of ask before we go. I'm just going to say hello to Jimmy Legg, who's typed in, "Hey Rev, why are you battling Roy for views?" Can you see that chat room? Can you see a chat room?
Let me see if I hit the chat button. Do I go to comments?
She is fantastic.
Oh, thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate Oh, that's really
I've got a very
cool.
good friend of mine, Roy, who does a whiskey YouTube channel. And Roy is a great expert in Scotch whiskey, and he gave this a plug when he knew I was doing it. He doesn't really listen to a lot of blues. He does sometimes when I make him, but
Yeah.
Roy has sent some viewers over, so Jimmy is one of those, and Roy is going live this evening, so that's why that says, "Why are you battling Roy for views?" But, anyway, he's fantastic, so full of enthusiasm. He says, "Love that."
Oh,
Now, one of the stories I read, and I think it was in Living Blues, and you'll tell it better than I can. You know the one I'm going to talk about, the lady who came in the nurse's uniform.
oh, that is my most precious, famous, cherished story, and why I keep doing it. So years ago, my blues band and I were playing in a local venue, and I noticed this young woman coming in all dressed in white. And I said, "Oh, yes, a fellow nurse. We could, share, talk about our trade and what's going on when I get a break." And she had ordered a drink. She had the same drink. We were there for 4 hours. So she had the same drink. When I had my break, I didn't get a chance to say hi to her because people were coming up to me. And that's fine. It happens. So she stayed up until the end of our show. And we were packing up, and she came up to me. She's like, "Miss Freddie, I really, enjoyed what you did." I said, "Oh, and we shared where we worked at, what hospitals." And she said, "But I just stopped in here to get a drink long enough." She said, "Because I'm going to go home and I'm going to kill my husband." And so my eyes got big. My heart felt like it left my body. I felt like the blood drained out of my body. I felt like I was having an out of body experience. What did she just tell me? I'm thinking to myself. And she said she had found out that I guess she was deeply in love with her husband. And she thought things were going well. Well, she found out he was cheating on her, and they had a young baby, little girl. So I'm not good on relationships. So I just kind of told her, I said, who's going to take care of the baby when he's gone and you're gone? I said, you may end up in jail or whatever. And I said, think about that. This goes beyond you and him. This is about the baby now. This is no longer something for you to be selfish about, because you're being very selfish. You're taking away two lives, and it's not, and you're also taking away the baby's life, because now the baby, is going to grow up. I was telling her with regrets and all that. I was also trying to throw some guilt trip on her too. And so, she thanked me and she left. And for weeks, I kept watching our local news to hear about, something like that. And I was saying all kind of crazy things. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to give, a deposition. I'm going to have to testify. I'm like, you're going to say, why didn't you say something? I'm like, really? So months later, same venue, young woman comes in, uniform, stays all night. She comes up to me. She's like, "Miss Freddie, do you remember me?" And I want to tell her, "Girl, I remember you. You're the one that's going to go kill your husband." That's what I was thinking. I said, "Yes, I remember you." And she said, "Well, you saved me." And I said, "Okay, what happened?" She went home and told her husband, "I know that you've been cheating on me, the whole scenario." And he didn't deny it. And she said, "I'm leaving." She took the baby, she left. So fast forward a few years later, saw this young woman with family of, I think it was 2 or 3 kids. And I'm thinking of her husband. Nope, she had divorced that man and she found someone else, or they found each other, and very, very happy. And the last time I saw her, this is 2021, probably about 3 years ago, they had added another baby and just as happy. And that husband, that new husband, he knew the story. And he came up and he hugged me and he said, "I want to thank you for saving our lives." And I'm like, what's your life got to do it? I'm thinking to myself. So that's my most infamous story as far as why I do the music that I do, because I've saved people's lives.
I think it describes it wonderfully well. And there's something special in that, you know, that's one person who comes back and is able to tell you this is the difference you made. Whereas most of the people who are touched by your music, by your testimony, your ministry, whatever it might be, we don't find out, do we, in this life, the impact that we made. But it's these ones that do come back, I think, are wonderfully special, and as you say, give us the motivation to push on through. And the days when we maybe didn't feel like doing it.
Yeah, you know, I humbly feel very, very grateful about it. It's really nice now, and I had to accept it, that everywhere I go, somebody will come up to me, and they may be with a friend or relative. It's like, that's Miss Freddye. I follow her everywhere. I'm like, oh, you know, and I tease them. I say, you're not my stalker, are you? You know, to make them feel comfortable that it's okay to talk to me. I'm not one of those ones, you know. But I get that every single time. Like if I'm somewhere, it happened when I was at work a couple of days ago. These two ladies, and I'm familiar with them, and they're like, oh, hi, Miss Freddye, you know, we see you again. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I didn't want to ask what was going on, who they were visiting. You know, I didn't want to get into that. And they're like, we just love you. We follow you everywhere. And I'm like, oh, I said, well, I can't talk about where I'm at. I said, you guys know. They're like, yeah, we know, you're booked. I said, you know where to go. It's like, yes, we know to go on your website. I said, okay. So it's things like that that keeps me going, that I have to press on. I have to continue doing new music and reinventing myself, because I tell people, I don't compete with other musicians. I'm like, there's enough room on this planet for all of us to be musicians, to be honest. The only person that I compete with is Miss Freddye from yesterday. So whatever I did yesterday, I've got to do it better today. And tomorrow, if I'm alive, good Lord keeps me on this earth, that tomorrow Miss Freddye got to be better than the Miss Freddye today. That's who I compete with. I mean, you know, that's all that I have time for, to compete against myself. I don't have time for anything else, and it's not a bad thing. And I'm not complaining. I used to complain. Okay, this is my final year. I'm not singing anymore. You know, I want to stay home and cook and clean and just go to work. And then every single time, and I stopped saying it. It's been 3 years now. My bandmates will tell you in both bands. She used to say that all the time, and we used to just look at her like she's crazy. You're not quitting. You're not going anywhere. You can't. You're addicted to singing. And I'm like, well, no, I'm addicted to people, like, you know, involving people. So that's me. That's who I am.
It is, and to be honest, from the other side of the Atlantic, talking to you tonight, it's inspirational. Another gentleman's come on, Willie Dolier. What a very special lady. And these are guys that have come over from that Whiskey Channel. In fact, the Whiskey Channel has started, so you know they've decided to stick with you rather than go to their usual whiskey haunt for a wee bit. What a very special lady! It shines out of you, and it really has been the most wonderful privilege to spend a little bit of time getting to know you.
I'm gonna cry, you guys. Everybody's gonna make me cry, and I have to tell you, this is who I am. You know, my coworkers will tell you, and this, don't tell my coworkers I told you all this. This was an experiment I did. You know, I usually, when I come in, good morning, all, what's going on? And then I'll go to the individual desk. Hey, how are you? What's happening? One day, I came in, I just, good morning, you know, like just a flat good morning, no smiling or nothing. I went in my office. I was quiet for 2-3 hours. And then our administrative assistant, she came in, she's like, what's the matter? Nothing. Yeah, it is. You're not your usual, hey, and waking us all up. I said, no, I'm fine. And it was very, very interesting how me, the individual, sets the tone for other people. And so I had to confess to my coworkers. I did. I said, guys, I just wanted to I was experimenting. They're like, don't ever do that again, because that's like calling, you know, crying wolf. I said, what? And they can tell when I don't feel good. And I'll tell them I'm not feeling well today. I have a headache. It's killing me. I'm just trying to work through this. I'm trying to like keep calm. But when I talk to our patients on the phone, you know, so yeah, this is me in a nutshell. I'm not perfect. I have bad days and good days. Although I quit swearing long time ago. Long time ago. And I just keep it real. I just keep it real. This is me. So if we meet person to person, you know, it's like, hi, how are you? And there's like 500 people, you know, behind you. We're going to talk for a few seconds, you know, but, you know, I'm not condescending because like I said, what I do is not mine to keep. And the first time that I think that I'm all that in a bag of chips, as we say here, God's going to take this away from me. There's no way.
We've got Jimmy agreeing there. First of all, he said there's no crying around whiskey people. But then he said that's true. People really gravitate to genuinely positive people. And I think...
Have you ever... I've had strangers come up to me and just pour their life, like what's going on with them. And I'm like, how do you know I'm not the IRS, the feds? How do you know? You know, I'm thinking this to myself. I've been on the bus and people just start talking to me like strangers. I've heard stories and I'm like, should you be telling me this? Or maybe because, you know, and then finally, someone that I knew was telling me, you know, just had a newly diagnosed cancer. This is about a couple of years ago. And we were friends. And just started pouring out other issues she was going through. And I just, like, my eyes got big and I started crying. And she's like, what's the matter with you? I said, because even though we know each other, I didn't know you had all this going on. She's like, I said, why would you tell me? She said, because you're the type of person that something about you that you're approachable. I said, yeah. I said, you know, I'm not phony, fake. I don't believe in that. I'm not trying to be all that in a bag of chips. I said, it's just not right. I said, because people have been there for me when I was down on my luck, when I needed, when I was diagnosed with cancer. I said the whole 9 yards. So, you know, I just asked God just to keep me grounded, keep me humble, and, you know, just keep my eyes wide open and keep my heart there. So that's who I am.
And having that gift is not something you recognize in yourself, is it? It's only something that you learn from other people coming to you and opening up. But if it's not an intrusive question, is your health good now? You keep good health these days? Or...
My health is good. Yeah, and I'm losing weight. And that's because I want to. Only because, you know, I'm an older adult now. And if anybody asks me how old I am, I will tell you. I will only tell you if you ask me. But you know, all my checkups so far with my eye doctor, I'm a diabetic, you know, and actually my blood sugars have been really good. Actually, they've been dropping a little low. And, you know, as far as the weight, because I'm taking the weight off, my blood pressure is great. And I'm sleeping better. Which is weird because I was the type of person to sleep 4 or 5 hours and yay. And I'm an older adult now, so that's not working for me. I have to have 6 hours. And, you know, I don't set my alarm clock anymore because I automatically get up at 5 o'clock, even on my off days, 5 a.m. in the morning. And I'm like, no, I want to sleep 3 more hours, but my body won't let me. So my health is great. I have to be honest, it's great.
Good. That's nice to hear, because I know you've spoken about, was 2004 was the second cancer you had, is that right?
Second. Yeah. Yep. It was. And that was the year I almost died being stubborn, you know, developed infections. And then when I had my first chemo treatment a week later, I went into my nadir, which, you know, means your blood cells, everything, your counts drop. You're more susceptible to infection, of course. Silly me, being the nurse, I was in the studio recording with my oldest and one of my nephews because they are into the whole rap, or they were. And I didn't feel good that day. I said, I feel, you know, I'm like, ugh, you know, I just didn't feel right. And they both said, maybe you ought to go to the hospital. Drove myself to the emergency room. And I was told my temperature was 104. I was delirious. I didn't feel good. And I was told, had I waited another 24 hours, I probably would not have been there to hear the lecture. And I said, okay. I said, oh, well. So, yeah, it was interesting times. It was very interesting to have cancer. I couldn't believe the first time back in 98 that I got it. Because I did all the checks, the breast exams on myself every month. I was exercising, but it kind of doesn't matter. Cancer, if it comes, it's coming. Don't matter who you are, where you are, how you are. If you're destined to get it, it's going to come. So.
Yeah, it doesn't respect anything, does it?
Nope.
No.
Does not.
Wow.
Age, culture does not matter. It's coming after you. And yeah. And once I had my first surgery, I was joking about it. And friends and colleagues that would come and visit me in the hospital, they would just shake their head. They're like, I said, guys, this was found on a flute by accident. I said, so I'm here. I said, remember, I cried for 24 hours straight, like 24 hours nonstop. And I said, now I can joke about it, And I tell people, I don't take light of it. That's not what the kind of joking I did, I said, by no means. I said, because it's serious business. I said, but the rest of you are so sad. I'm like, I'm not going to die. I don't feel like I'm going to die. And I said, if I die, you're not going to do this at my funeral. And, my friends, God bless them. I love you all. But I try to be positive and focused. I said, because I did the denial, the anger, why me, God, you don't love me. I said, I went through all of that. I said, that's normal. I said, if I'd have just pretended, then what?
Yeah, people see through it, don't they? If it's not authentic like that.
Yeah. So,
listen, you have been superbly generous with your time. Just for the benefit of the guys watching, when I had sort of said on the email that tonight was going to be tight, and then the email that came back said I've got a date in September. It was like the 6th of September was the next free date or something, and I hadn't realised quite how. But it's a sign of success, right? It's a sign that people are loving the music, and they just want to soak it up and listen to it and let it speak to them.
Absolutely. And they can go on Spotify, add me to their playlist. They can go on CD Baby, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon. Please, add me to your list. It's about you feeling good. If you're having a rough day, if you're having a joyous day, pick a song of mine that you like. Doesn't matter. Go on YouTube. I'm all over YouTube. And, it's really strange, and it doesn't freak me out, but I chuckle. I'll maybe once in a while, I'll just type in my name on the internet. Oh my God, I'm all over the internet. I said, so how come I don't have a Wikipedia if that's the case? I couldn't believe how much I'm on the internet. Because one of my relatives, a cousin of mine, said, hey, do you know that so-and-so and so-and-so? And I said, no. And I think the last time I looked at myself was probably like a few days ago because I was on vacation, just chilling. And I said, wow, really? This is me? That's a lot. And then, once again, I went into prayer. I said, thank you, Lord, because this is all you're doing. So
I've got a question in the chat. Somebody said, I'm so sorry if you already asked this. I missed the beginning. I'd love to know about a blues artist that she loves that I've not heard of.
Oh, that you've not heard of? That I love?
Have you any blues artists that maybe we wouldn't have? Not a big name, but worth checking out.
Okay, let me see. Let me think about that I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, but he's out in the West Coast, and he actually was co-producer of my second album, Andy Santana and the West Coast Boys. Check
You
out
played
Andy
harmonica in a lot of
Santana.
is that right? You played the harmonica in a lot of them?
He played harmonica on a couple of the songs on that album. But I had never heard of Andy until Brandon Bentz, Dr. B, who got this whole thing started to introduce me to those guys out there. And I don't know if Andy has anything. I think he does have a few things on YouTube, but that's worth checking out. I like, he does that whole West Coast jump, jive, swing, blues. And I just love that combination. It's such a great combination. And he's such a gifted musician. So yeah, here's to Andy Santana. Woo.
He sounds like someone to seek out.
Yes.
Listen, thank you so much again, and thank you to those of you who have tuned in. Jimmy saying thank you so much. Love the harp. Yeah, the harp on, in fact, the whole of the Lady of the Blues album, I thought it was superb. But to those of you, if you've been watching who have not listened to Miss Freddye before, then Something to Believe In is a genuinely inspirational song, and Wade in the Water, something a bit special. So if you want to hang on just for a moment or two, I'll say cheerio to everybody who is watching, and I'll end the broadcast. Take care, and those of you who are going to switch over to Roy, I'll maybe see you there later.
Thanks, everybody.